Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. It's Sunday Sessions, 22nd of November, 2020. So let's go. Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for our weekly time of exploring nature centered folklore, connecting this to within your favorite sanctuary space. And it's lovely to be outside today and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, problem solving, or whatever your vocation is. Now, today's Sunday sessions out in the surprising sunny November afternoon. Didn't think we'd be outside again this year. It's The sessions is preparing for winter, folklore, food, and foretelling. And we got some lovely guests coming up. We got Donna Johnson and Trista Haggerty together. They're going to be discussing their mead making and celebrating. There's some of Donna's mead there. And Susan Farrell, she's already here, which is fantastic. She's in the green room and she's going to introduce her lovely just released book, My Home Place Inheritance. And I'm going to wander through some November traditions that I haven't had time to go through in previous Sunday sessions through this November. And this is going to include some broom dancing, brooms and broom dancing, witches, black cats, and the traditions of bringing cattle down from hill grazing as they've been sent up to the hills and Belthany. Though I'm going to cover in uh, the Clare Burren where they actually do the reverse and they're actually going up the hills now. So that's interesting to cover, important thing going on. And I'm also going to be covering the deeds of Don, King of the She. But right now, this is really a fourth time of celebrating Sawan because the date of this has changed so much over thousands of years. So this fourth time, it's rarely even noticed this in our age anyway. But this is the time when the seven cluster stars of Pleiades is rising on the eastern horizon at sunset. And it stays roughly there, right there until Imbolc. And last night, uh, it was the first night, and it was clear last night, and certainly you could visibly see them. But Pleiades is known as the Seven Sisters, though visibly you can only really see six of them with a naked eye. It needs a telescope to get all seven. And they're positioned on the shoulder blade of the bull figure of the Taurus constellation. Um, so there's Pleiades there, a little bit of a diagram for you. And this is not. I couldn't take a photo last night, but this is if you can see it. There's a sort of little white blob, not the moon thing there, but right at the top, you can actually see the little bunch of stars, and that's roughly what it looks like. And this commenced, as I say, yesterday, 21st of November. But 4,000 years ago, it actually rose about the same time as the sidereal calculated Swan cross quarter, about the 7th of November. You remember I was saying uh, on the Sunday sessions covering that, that really it was only the elite, the mathematicians who were able to work that out as far as the peasants, everybody else. They looked to the first dark moon, new moon, because that's something that they could see. But way back in the Stone Age and coming on to the Bronze Age, the Pleiades is something they could see, and that was the point. This is Sawan, and this was the rites of passage. And it's said that we're in the age of Aquarius at the moment, and that's been the 19th century. And some astrologers and mathematicians say 1844 because a lot of things were invented then. I know the spinning jenny was one of them, and it was very much a key year for the Industrial Revolution. But about 2,000 years before that was the time of big religions evolving, the age of Pisces, and the religions were running the show. And even with Christianity, if you think about it, uh, the bishops are going around with fish heads on their heads, and Jesus had a lot to do with fishermen and fishes. and washing feet, another Pisces symbolism. And it's interesting having the two fishes of Pisces and the five loaves of bread, representing the opposite sign, Virgo. And then before that, the age of Aquarius, the Iron Age, with the battles, heroes, and the conflicts with tribes trying to sort out their place on the earth. And then before that, if I can, the age of Taurus is something for you to read there. Um, from megalithic structure building through settled farming with cattle and up through the Bronze Age. And cattle itself became very much a currency. And it seems the megalithic sites believed in cattle. They were settled farmers. So it's believed that the megalithic sites that were built and currently aligned to Sawan, thinking of the Mound of Hostages in Tara, and also is it Ken? Always getting the wrong way around. Ken L at Loch Crew. But there's a wonder, were they actually aligned to Pleiades? Because that would have been about the same time. And there are several UFO and alien theories of that time due to a belief there's actually an Earth-like planet inside Pleiades. And there's a kind of mythology that visitors came from that planet to the Earth at the time that they built the megalithic structures, and how that's how they could move the big stones and so forth. But really, the archaeologists and anthropologists have not dug up any evidence of that yet. So it's very much in storyline. Anyway, I'm going to continue with the November traditions. I've got a lot of show to go through. These are things I'm not covered yet. And I'm only doing it this year because next year all this is going to be in the course, the she water and tree folklore course that I'm doing for subscribers. Anyway, I'm doing some detail today. So we go on to brooms, brooms and broom dancing. No, that's not a broom, is it? There we go. There's brooms, and the first image of brooms, I'm sure that most people have, is of sweeping and brushing stuff away. Um, so there we are with someone brushing stuff away there. Let's line the pictures up properly here. And the second image, if we start thinking esoterically, is it's we when we use a broom, we may be sweeping away negativity. Oh, I'll leave that one. That's there you are, sweeping negativity away there. Um, I think this one, I like this one as well. There we go. And as I sneaked in, brooms are also used for sweeping a space. Usually it's the first action we do before a ritual, rite of passage, um, ceremony, or celebration. And of course, getting to this picture at last, it's very well known that we use a broom in weddings, both for sweeping a space before the actual union ceremony and for jumping the broom to embrace and further bond union at a wedding or a union ceremony. And broom's also symbolic. It's really symbolic of a broom handle wrapped with female bristles. And there's some men with their holding their male ends there with some female bristles around the end. And then there's the mysterious and sometimes comical folklore of the witches flying around on broomsticks. And you might think I'm a bit late because it's past Halloween, but I'll tell you, this is an extended thing, flying around in broomsticks. Here's another one. That's a powerful one. That's a twin engine one. Uh, some of the males might like that, considering what I just said. um, but I think I've missed. There's some pictures missing. Never mind. This all seems to come from the which is on a broomstick. Seems to come from the shamanic practice of consuming hallucinogenic substances that would be toxic and terribly fatal if passed through the stomach. Uh, some of the herbs were henbane, mandrake, Jimson weed. They were perhaps the most popular. Jimson weed, I remember years ago, I wasn't smoking myself, but I know they were easily available from tobacconists when you got these little tobacconists, these small shops. You could buy these Jimson weed, I forget the brand name. They were cigarettes that asthmatics would smoke. And of course, some people actually would buy them to open up the cigarettes and make the tea out of them, or make a salve and make an ointment. And one story I heard at Woodstock, the Who actually drank this stuff before their performance at Woodstock. But it's actually it's a very dangerous thing. This is what the Jimson looks like. Jimson looks like when it's growing, and it's those seeds that are toxic bit there. Um, so they're the most. But it was said that well, really, with these herbs, too toxic to actually put through your mouth and drink because they will poison through your stomach, internal organs, be a mess. But it's said that these herbs were put onto brooms as a salve, as an alternative to putting through with the stomach. And so it avoids the self administration, and that's said to be how this was done. But of course, as we well know, during the patriarchal ruled medieval times, this was part of devil worship or witchcraft, as it was said, horrific things going on there, because it was regarded as a form of fornication too. And interestingly, though, the first person to be convicted of witchcraft and flying on a broomstick was a man. And here we go. There's a man style broomstick there. um, anyway, the fellow that was first done before any women was let's see if I can get his spelling up here, um, because it is quite complicated. I can't even pronounce it properly. It's Guillaume. Is it Guillaume Edlin? And he's an Augustine prior of Saint Germain-en-Laye near Paris. So that's the fellow, and it said that he admitted to flying on a broom to satisfy his carnal desires, and so he was arrested and was sentenced to life imprisonment, and that was in 1433. Um, but back to our own regular broom users. Back to the photographs here. Um, the broom users here. Here we go. There's a sort of a man on a broomstick. Uh, but even the obvious use of broom to sweep a home, it really, I think it has a spellbinding therapy. And I've actually, if I got them, these are the brooms I actually use myself. This is Old Faithful. Um, it's not really the regular materials. This is made from rushes. It's getting very worn out, but I don't ride around on it, obviously. It gets used a lot in the cottage, but that sort of lost its popularity. This isn't exactly in the tradition, but this was a present from Thailand, and it's amazing. This is very ultra efficient. It's almost, you don't even have to hit the floor with this, and just a light touch, and it's such an efficient. But if anybody knows what the material is, let me know. Very efficient broom from Thailand. Starting to fall a bit apart a bit with the handle because I do well use that one. Very, very good. So that's an introduction to my own brooms. But I think it's quite spellbinding when you actually use those. But I believe many of us unknowingly, we actually use a broom to sweep clean debris from our past cycles, our past projects. After an illness, the first thing we do is get hold of that broom, and that's our past. Get rid of the negativity. And there's a broom maker, a lovely picture of someone making precious brooms for casting spells. And that's definitely clearing some serious negativity there. Uh, looks a little bit like the material of the Thai thing that I showed you, the Thai broom. But um, after arguments, she looks a little bit angry over something. Um, but we use a broom, I think, after arguments and disputes to clear the air and return peace to our space. And some precautions, though, when you use brooms, if I can get to it, never fight with anyone that's holding a broom. Otherwise, it will conjure up a spell of isolation and people will be reluctant to come near you. There'll be no friends, no relationships, and never ever sweep around people or walk around holding a broom. Otherwise, it causes tension and fights, and that again causes separations. So the best thing is just ask people to politely move. And also remember that a new broom sweeps as clean as a whistle, and an old broom knows all corners. So, and broom brush material. Well, through Europe, they use broom. I noticed around here the broom, the firs, it's out in blossom. Last year, I don't think it did. It usually does come out in November, and it's looking beautiful in the sun right now. And also, heather and birch twigs are used. The handle around where we are, hazel is perhaps the most common. Hawthorn's used if you're using rites of passage brooms, and willow's good. And at least willow's used to tie the brushes uh, as well. Oh, that's like the one I got, and that's really like a USA one, using broom corn, sorghum, and they become popular. And I think they use pine handles with those. Make some comments, USA people, to say what you use on those. But I think that's enough on brooms. And I was saying broom dancing. And this is a video, if I can get right down to it, find its location. I had a group of people from Australia. It wasn't far off this time of year. And it's very relevant for this time because after harvest time, there's the straw, and we were at the Okakili Maud Mama's place in Fermanagh, and they were having a straw workshop. We had these people from Australia that popped in, and it was lovely. And they were doing thatching. Of course, thatching repairs are done at this time, ready for the winter. And then the various helmets for the Mama's celebrations, which I'll be talking about in a couple of weeks' time on Sunday sessions. And they'll be making little lovers' knots and all kinds of stuff. And they were just sweeping up after the session. And one man, Desi, after and in the middle, he was just sweeping away and clearing it up. And this was very impromptu. You might have seen this professionally on stage, but this is what happened when they were clearing up. I trust. Some ladies are going over the bar now.
Was it fast enough today?
So there's a spot of spontaneous broom dancing. Well, I've been rude. I haven't said hello to who's around. And good day to Shell. Lovely to see you again. Same here, sunny and chilly. Perhaps it's more chilly where you are. Lovely to see you. Elizabeth, hello for being here. And Sherry, hello. I don't know if Claire's on yet. She said she'd be joining on, but she's in Dublin, Sherry. She might be logging on, but she's not live today. And Donna, who's going to be one of our guests. Oh, I see her in the green room. Hello, Donna. Room on a broom. I love that story so much. Right. And there's Monica. Hello, Monica. Hello there. And my mother used to perform the broom ritual every day, sweeping every corner of the home. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think, as I say, when I use the brooms I showed you, magic always seems to happen. And there's Robin here. Robin's been to the cottage here from Austin. Love to you as well, there, Robin. Love to see you all. Fabulous. Now, what have we got on next? Now, on to the witches themselves. Talked about the broomstick. Some people think, we're way past Halloween. Wait and see what we're going to see. And there are various genders. Here's a witch here, and that's my daughter actually. That's my daughter. Very well done. That was done a couple of sort of Halloweens ago, and that was actually done by the prosthetics director of Lord of the Rings, because my daughter worked with Lord of the Rings and got to know the crew. So he did that. He did her up to look like that for one Halloween. What an amazing job, eh? um, but women really, if you think about it, when they pass childbearing age, they become wise women and move on from being mothers to crones. And this is something that kind of explains that. And to me, this is really what the whole thing we call witchery really is about. Um, so really, Halloween is not just, I mean, witches are not just Halloween imagery, but they're a whole cycle of every part of the year, and especially this regenerating time, transformation time between the Sawan and Imbolc, which is what we're in now. So it's a time really when herbs are gathered, they're being dried, made into salves, extracts, decoctions, concentrates, vinegar, soaps, smudging sticks, and blessing aids. Very busy time for the so-called witches. And it's perhaps the time, perhaps the most healing and most intense affirmations when they're made. And unfortunately, of course, as I did mention earlier, the whole late medieval slaughtering of witches, very, very sad. Women of once they were past childbearing age, it seemed like they were doomed before they even generated their new power and their life calling. And it's quite it's quite heartbreaking when you think that 80,000 women through Europe were killed between about 1450 and 1550, all accused of being witches. Most of them were actually killed off in Germany, and the least were in Ireland. Uh, Very, very sad times. And when you think about it, they were just killed off just for being women. They weren't devil worshippers. They were just wise women. Women. So to me today, it seems several women today who go around calling themselves witches, they seem to be branding themselves something like Instagram influencers. So uh, there's some Instagram witches for you. And as a male, I'm going to dare to share 9 practices of witchery. So let's see how I get on with this. Well, to me, it seems witchery practice is very much reclaiming the pride of women and discovering trust in understanding the secret abundance of what their surroundings are, setting intentions, setting up a comfortable small sanctuary for doing this. And I see this practice as being, um, as bringing a live power to yourself rather than being sentenced to some kind of servitude. There's the sanctuary. There we go. That's what I wanted. Crone power. That's the picture I needed up for that one. uh, I got a lot of pictures today. Anyway, witchery does not need to be full of fancy crystals and crystal balls. And tools, it really is tools that you got around, especially in your garden, and your broom, of course, much more essential than crystal balls. And witches don't need to be women either. Men usually call themselves something else. And there's a couple of a couple of male witches. There's another one there. Okay. Anyway, the calling does seem to be very much stronger in women, though. The crones, as they a calling that comes after being the mother, and well, that's a local crone. That's Jan, who's a neighbour who sometimes dresses up as a witch, but the way she actually lives her life is kind of a lot of an inspiration in what I'm talking to you about now. If you're here, you'll have to meet her sometime. Although she's kind of isolated in this COVID COVID time. There we go. So witches don't even need to be called a witch, and I think that's a fun title to work with, and that's what I tend to think the witch title is. And some women are proud to call themselves witches, and they're very protective of that title. Maybe it's a respect and a relief that by being a witch today, you're not going to be burnt at the stake. So it's a sort of a proud thing. Now, for those who call themselves witches or not witches, the kitchen is definitely the workshop. And there's one kitchen there. I love that artist impression. And there's a real active. This isn't Jan's kitchen, but if you went into Jan's kitchen earlier, it's very much like this. Anyway, as for divination spells and all the stuff that goes in the kitchen, I'm going to have another Sunday session on that. There's going to be plenty of stuff on the course that I'm doing. Also, you don't need to be born into ancestry of witches, though the teaching from relatives it can help. That looks like a passed down book there. And focusing on hexes, I think that's a bad idea. A hex is an action based on anger and revenge inside. And how can that ever make anyone happy or have a good outcome? I think letting go is much more the answer for that. There's someone trying to brew a hex there, I think. Anyway, white witches, black witches, forget it. I mean, the whole thought of white and black and divisions, that's what it is. It's like a spell of division. Again, I don't think that's very beneficial, is it? But as for the black pointy hat, I have to bring Jan on again, even though a pointy has gone down. I don't know. I suspect this was a fashion statement that came out of the 19th century Celtic romantics. And maybe it was a mockery at the time against the top hat Christian. So, top hat Christians, a kind of a snobbery, something about that. Anyway, overall, so on to Imbolc times, the most potent time for crones, whatever they call them, the wise women, um, representing the human morphing of the kayak. After all, if you think about it, who puts the most energy into putting Christmas together? I think there's a clue there. Let's see how your comments are getting on here. Let's see who's joined us. Monica, yes, saying, yeah, that was very sad. Definitely on that. Anyway, I move along here because we've got these lovely guests to bring on. And black cats. I can't go through brooms and witches without black cats. I got a few cats, and I can't really be going live on Facebook without a few cats, can I? I've been bringing in cats lately, but most cat folklore stories seem to be about bringing bad luck on people. So I suppose I better cut those out. We don't want any bad luck on this Sunday. So anyway, a cat is of which is familiar. I love the folklore of their cat being the connection to the she world. Look at this one; she's got two cats. Some of them do, of course. A lot of them have, and the cat seems to be becoming their guide, their inspiration, their nourishment of trust and confidence. And there's Donna, who's going to come on shortly. There's her with her black cats there. um, but the witch would never go out and find a cat. There would never a real witch would not buy a cat. A cat is some has to arrive at the doorstep, or a family member give them a cat. Those are the cats that have come to be the familiar in my mind. Anyway, I'm going to be including more about cats in my course. Cauldrons, cauldrons. They're the other thing. As I say, I'm going through racing through the rest of these November traditions. I should mention, though we're familiar with cooking pot cauldrons, and we refer to them in witch stories, we read about them, but really, I think, oh, I forgot to bring it out here. I was going to bring one of Michael Quirk's um, works carving. Sorry, I haven't brought it. Oh, here comes Trista now. She's going to be joining. She's going to be bang on time. If any of you are familiar with the storytelling sculpture, Michael Quirk, he does this beautifully. And the whole idea of the womb. And I've got this Morrigan Morn, the Corricuan figure, and she has the triple spiral with the breasts and the womb. But the womb is also featured as a cauldron. So I think when we talk about the cauldron in Wise Women in Witchery stories, we're referring to the symbolism of the womb. And in a winter context, the womb and the whole spell binding, the whole remix of everything uh, between the Sawan and the Imbolc, the imagery of the underworld stirring, mixing, and all the magic of all the debris from this year that's being all mixed underground, and it will come up as a fresh birth in spring. And it's all about converting the past harvest season into a fresh brew of life for the next germination, hatching, growing, and all the harvest cycle. As I say, I always talk in terms of cycles on these sessions. One thing I'm going to cover, there's just one last thing before we bring our lovely guests on. I see there's a few more comments going on here. Donna, talking about her kitties. Actually, the kitties were. There we go. Donna's were rescue cats. Very good. As I say, we did feature Donna's cats there. Brilliant. I'm glad that you sent that photo through to us. But I'm going to feature one more thing: is the cattle movement that goes on this time of year. Let's get myself to the little picture selection. Make sure I've got this right. Uh, and It's a Sawan tradition. This really is a tradition from ancient times. It's an annual cycle of cattle movements, and it's a care driven out of the towns known as transhumans. Very complicated word. Do I have a thing on the banner for this as transhumans? Let's see if I got a little banner notice. Yes, I've got the spelling of it. This is it. You might be familiar with it if you're farmers, you're hill farmers. There's the transhumans there. Let's get rid of, let's see, transhumans. Uh, there we go. I like you to see the full pictures if you can. And that's very much a Scottish thing, because at Beltona, the cattle they're driven between the fires to singe off the winter bugs. You know, the two fires tradition, drive the cattle through at Sawan, and the heat of that singes them because they're coming out of their winter storage or the low fields that time. And they're being sent off up into the hills for their mountain grazing, hillside grazing. But they're brought down from the hills at this time of year, and there's a whole bunch being brought down the hills there. And it's quite a celebration time. Some people make quite an event of it. Look at that. That's the bringing the cattle back. There's feasting, markets, and there's also all kinds of wooing and mating at this time. And bairns are conceived during the May wooing by the Beltany wooing, of course. But the Burren in Clare, it's the reverse. The traditional practice is they call it reverse transhumance. And what they're doing right now at this time of year, they're sending the cattle up into the hills and they bring them downhill in summer. And the reason for that is the limestone on the Clare Burren, it gets very hot in summer. You know, they're bare, anyone who's been to the Burren in Clare has found. And in the summer, that heats up, it's like an oven. So it's too uncomfortable for cattle to be up there in the summer. But during the winters, the heat is slowly released when they're up on the hills. And the winter grazing them being up there helps the increase of the spring flowers, which, of course, if you've been to the Clare Burren in April, late April and May, that's what it's famous for. And it's all thanks to these happy cows being up there. Now, in Scotland, cattle has been driven from the highlands to the lowlands for thousands of years for the wintering. And in the USA, it was always thought that the first cowboys were Mexicans in Texas. But soon the Highland Cowboys of Scotland, they were very much in demand on the Texas to Kansas cattle runs. The Chisholm Trail, there's a bit of a map there, is named after a Scotch Cherokee man. And the cattlemen of Wyoming, they were from Scotland as well. So it's very much the whole cowboy tradition came from tradition of this time of year in Scotland. And that's how crofters can make a little bit of extra cash by bringing their laird's cattle down. Um, what we got here. I'm not entering into this any more into this time. It's um, anyway. There's some lusty cattlemen. It's a lusty time, but the Scottish cattlemen, they certainly brought traditions of stories, music, cowboys, and songs, and even in Scottish Cayley floor spots. If you're in Scotland and there's a Cayley dance going on, and you do a floor spot, the tradition is you do two songs. You do one traditional Scottish song, and you do one country song. If you do two of one or two of the other, you get booed off. So you got to do the two to bring the balance. Uh, and let's see what you've got extra to say about that. Sherry's got something to say. Uh, she's got a link there. Coning, calling the cattle. That's beautiful too. And which is a lot of information regarding Wicca. Uh, as I say, that definitely the Wicca has one expression of the witchering. I was going into obviously a general expression of it, and on the course on the she water and tree folklore course be going into that. But I think the one thing to emphasize is, to me, I think Wicca is one interpretation, and it's been put into a package because a lot of people like to follow some kind of order, some kind of doctrine. They feel comfortable in that. So it's not a knocking of Wicca, but I think it's just to bring attention that is a kind of a package of it. It's not the in any way some kind of origin, but it's certainly worthy for those that practice it, and there's a lot of good stuff there. One more important tradition of November, and I'll do this before our lovely guests. I know that, as I say, there is a lot of show on today with this, and it was great fun putting this together. But I'm going to cover Don. This is the time of Don, Lord of the Dead. And sounds very good, doesn't it? But the story of Don starts as he was one of the seven sons of Mill. These are the Malaysians, which I've often talked about on Sunday sessions. They arrived in Ireland with 65 boats, and there was a storm. I'm not going to go through the story of that this time. But when they eventually got ashore, the Tour de Danann, they pushed the Tour de Danann underground. And though there were seven of them, it was only three of them actually got to the shore with a small battalion, but they still managed to push the Tour de Danann down. Anyway, I'm going to move on that because Don was the eldest brother of the Sons of Mill, and he was the leader of that ancient invasion. But unfortunately, he was the first to drown in the great storm that the Tour de Danann had spelled upon the sea to prevent their arrival on the shores. As I say, only three of the sons arrived on the Erin shore. But Don was the leader, and well, there's a burning tree story, and I'm going to bring that up in the course. But Don's said to have come to his human end at Bull Rock, and this is a sea picture. There's Bull Rock. It's a rock that's jutting out of the sea west of Dursey Island, which is west of the Beara Peninsula. You actually get to Dursey Island by going on a cable car across the sea. Fascinating experience. And from Bull Rock, and this is an interesting one because I think that shows the light. If you can see it clearly, the lighthouse keep houses, the ancient ones. God, how did they build those? I don't know. And anyway, from Bull Rock said that Don or Dun entered the she world and became Lord of the she, Lord of the fairies, and Lord of the dead. And I'm going to pull up a bit of a banner regarding the Don here, with his different names, different spelling. Where's Don, Lord of the Dead there? And it says that through November, let's get that through November, Don and his son has transported those who had passed away during the past year. They were now put on the white horses of Don. So it's very much the same as the women she, and where the women she they go to Turin and Og. But in the stories of Don, they go to Tacduan. Again, I'm going to try and get a banner up with all sorts of spellings for you on this one that are gone. There we go. That's no, we want that one. There we go. Let's show you that one. There's the different spellings of that. Now I'm bring this one up because this is what I'm going to explain as well now. Because from the Bull Rock is where you enter the underworld, but there's also the Don She Circle. I haven't got a picture of the She Circle, unfortunately, but this is a hill, Knockfearn, the Hill of Truth, and that's Ballingarry, which is in County Limerick. And there's an ancient Ormstone that was found there in 1837. It's now in a farm down below, but it was an indication if it was up there, it was a calling to a very important place of gathering. And look at the spiral that's actually on the side of the stone there. You can see the Orm on the corner there, but there's that added extra of that spiral, which must have been some kind of map, must have been explaining something, because as we said in the stone session, that these were often information used for information as well. So it's presumed that Knock Firin was a meeting place for one of those that passed away during the past year to ensure their safe passage with Don and his sons, who would take them west to Tacduan. And Don Duan, also known as Duan Ferrin. There we go. Have I got their names? I think I might have a banner with all their various names there. There we go. There you go. If you need to take notes, there's their various names there. And it said that he controlled the weather. Don controlled the weather from this hill. And he also, excuse me, he didn't like anyone farming on this hill. So anybody he found farming there, it said that if they brought their cattle and sheep, for instance, um, they were kidnapped into the underworld. So if you dare to put your cattle and sheep on that, the Don will get you. And there's a picture of where you might have looked at and casted the weather from. Anyway, that's a bit of the Don. Other names, as I say, for Don, we got them up. Don Dumach, Dom Dovak, Don Doak, and even associated with the underground horned serpent Cromdove of the Max Slack that I talked about over Lunasa. And it might be that the garden cemeteries Halloween, I have a feeling, were perhaps came from the tradition. Well, there's some mead there. That's nothing. I'm ahead of myself, aren't I? Anyway, it might have came from the that might have came from the Don tradition somehow in a roundabout way. Anyway, it's time. I'm going to check your comments about that because we're going to bring our guests on. We're going to have fun, and I want to be in a bit of listening mode now for a bit myself, because I've gone on quite a while about this. I hope you enjoyed that. A few more November uh, traditions there. Rebecca, hello, back south, and Wicca, the distinctions, yes, very broad. I'll be bringing that up. As I say, I didn't want to go entirely on the Wiccan interpretation well, I've said all that, but there's a lot of ways looking at it. But that was a good link if you wanted that. And that'll be in the comments for you to copy down, which would be fabulous. All right, here we go. The bits I've been looking for. Donna and Trista, who are going to be discussing mead. And this all started off with a Facebook chat. And I don't know, I can't remember how it started. I mentioned about mead and talking about mead. It's very much a thing done this time of year because it's a time of collecting the apples, it has been, and the honey. And this is a mead celebration. So let's bring them aboard. Here we have Donna. Hello. I have to put my ear things on. Otherwise, I won't have a clue what you're saying, and I'm not very good at lip reading. So let's see if I can get you on. Hello, Donna. I can't hear you yet. Hello, Donna. Oh, for some reason you're muted. I don't know why. I'm going to unmute you. Hold on. Let's see if I can unmute you. No, for some reason I got you muted. And I don't know why you're muted. I'm trying to unmute you. Let's see. Tech issues. We were doing so well here. There's an instruction. You're muted. You got to unmute. You're unmuted, aren't you, Trista? Hello, Trista.
Hi.
Yeah, I can hear
you, John.
Trista.
Yeah,
Donna,
can you hear
muted.
me?
Yeah, very clear. But Donna's got you've muted. There you go. I should hear you now.
I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on. Very good. Lovely to see you. As I say, this all came together because you're mead makers. Lovely to see you. And I thought, yeah, there we go. You got your mead. And so how do we do this? Let's see you show off your mead. I'm going to get rid of my mug on this one so you can actually. I'm going to remove myself. Let's see how I remove me. It's how to get you two and not me. You know, I've done this before and I should know better. No, that's just me, isn't it? Let's get you two. I think I'll try.
I'm not sure where John is. Donna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Nice to connect.
Yeah.
I think John's original post was about the. I think it wasn't it about the reindeer and the antlered goddess, wasn't?
Yes, we started out with Pleiades and the reindeer lore.
Right. I'm only
Victoria.
Right, and then somehow that spiraled into all these great recipes.
Yeah. Well, we had the Gather Victoria article.
I don't know if there.
Which really inspires me. So.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I love that. I love that site. What kind of mead is it that you make?
I started a year ago making just a plain traditional honey mead with just the very basic recipe. 1 gallon, 3 pounds of mead, and then fill the gallon container up with water, purified water, and a cup of strong tea and some raisins, and then a half package of yeast. And it took about 2 months before I could bottle it, and then I waited until Beltane to drink it. I was going to share it with my group at Beltane, but that didn't happen. So I drank a bottle of it with a friend anyway, and it had turned out really good. And meanwhile, during the year, especially after the quarantine happened, I started just getting really serious. I bought equipment. I started making the different flavors. I bought some herb blends and made one with a couple of herb blends. And around May, my roses started blooming. So I made a micro batch of rose petal mead. I think you see the color here. It shows up a little. No,
that's beautiful.
And they started selling kombucha, blue kombucha, in these really pretty bottles. So they ended up being perfect for my small meads. And then I started getting a little fancier and some oak cubes and vanilla beans. And I believe this one was started in January 1st, in fact. Glad I put
wow.
And this was, I started this later. Oh, good, you can see the color. But this is real pretty.
Yeah, that's a beautiful color.
And then this was leftover from a batch of plain mead that I made, and I just happened to have these much smaller bottles. So I actually I've lost count how many bottles I have, because the hope and the expectation was going to be that the COVID thing was going to be over and we would have our celebrations. You know, midsummer came and went. We drank a bottle of the cherry for midsummer, and then Lammas came and went. Mabon came and went. And then Samhain, and when we drank Blackberry Mead, which I had started in March. And the latest one that I just started is made from prickly pear cactus fruit. So,
that sounds.
I've got that one fermented, but it's not where I can move it right now, so I can't just bring it in and show it off, but it's an amazing color. So tell me about yours.
Well, I'm not in a business with it like you are.
But I'm not in business.
I'm much more of an amateur, I would say, but we have a lot of wild grapes and a lot of elderberries that grow on our land. Wow. And so I just collected those over the years and made all sorts of things, syrups and jams and jellies and things like that. But I started making, I think elderberry was the first wine that I made. And then I made dandelion wine. This is actually some that one of our apprentices made. We had some apprentices here this spring, and so I taught them how to make dandelion wine. But it wasn't until I brought a group to southern France, and it was early in May, like a few years ago, and it was just a cold, wet, rainy day, and we were climbing this mountain to see this old castle ruin, and we came back down and everyone was kind of coughing, just like chilled to the bone. And we went into this little restaurant, and the waitress brought out what they call hippocras, which I think is probably essentially mead, but they call it hippocras. And every little village in southern France has their own recipe supposedly for hippocras. So I came home and as soon as our wild grapes were ready that fall, I started making hippocras, and they basically I put wild grapes in it and some echinacea in it, different kitchen spices, and and just let it ferment. But I don't even have any of the fancy equipment when it comes to fermenting. Basically, I have a big crock pot, and after I cook all the fruit and any herbs or spices that I add to it, I strain it out and I let it sit in this big crock pot, after adding honey, of course. And that's where it ferments. And then I pour it into bottles like this, or I've got bottles like this. I pour it in there, and then I actually put balloons on the top of the bottles, and the balloons will tell me when the fermenting is done. It's a very, probably a very, just a really simple way of doing it. But it's interesting because I'll have bottles lined up on my shelf with these balloons that'll be, they'll be like kind of blown up. But as soon as the fermenting is completely done, the balloons just collapse. And then I know that I can bottle it. So I've got, let's see, I think this is a wild grape cordial. And then I've got like elderberry. This is my big bottle of hawthorn berries in here, hawthorn berry tincture, actually. And we also have a lot of choke cherries. So this is a choke cherry syrup that I made. And then, we were talking about all these great recipes from the Gather Victoria website. And this wasn't one of her recipes, but I would imagine that it could be one of her recipes. I have a big jar of dried and roasted dandelion and chicory root that I keep in my herb cabinet. And I made a chocolate cheesecake, and I put some of this roasted dandelion root and chicory root into the cheesecake, and it was so good. It really added this. First of all, it made it like really dark and rich looking. So those are just some of the things that I've done with wild foods.
I thank you so much, both of you, for
got John coming back down.
The mead, and hopefully we'll have you back in when talking about deer in December. But yeah, it's beautiful. And Trista, how are you going to celebrate with your mead for the rest of this year?
Well, you can see that I've been celebrating. This bottle.
Oh, so
bottle's almost empty.
So we've not got a weak reception from you. That's just the after effect of the mead, then.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay. Very good. Anyway, I got to say bye-bye to you because we're getting near the end. I've got Susan coming up. Oh, there's some interesting sounds there.
Sorry, that's my clock. I can't make it stop.
Oh, very good. It's lovely to see you, and fantastic that you finally came aboard, Donna, because you're with us every week. So it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you, Trista. Thank you for being on again. We'll be back with you another time. And so thanks very much. And I've said a farewell just now. Thanks. Oh, that was lovely. Mead making. Very much a tradition at that time, but these women seem to be doing it all year. And now moving on here, Susan Farrell. It's only a few days ago she came out with an amazing book. Let's see if I can get the cover. I haven't got the physical copy, so I rushed out when it got released a few days ago. Absolutely delighted. I went straight for the ebook. My Home Place Inheritance, absolutely fabulous. It's a very clever book from Susan. She's what she's done. It's like a diary. It's like a journal that goes back into days past. And it's this story that follows kind of her lifestyle. And you get all these visions. And the moment you've got the vision, you're into a kitchen and suddenly some food's being made. And lo and behold, there's the recipe up in the book. There it is. And then the story moves on. And there was so much in this book I could relate to that was very much of my own childhood. And I said, Susan, you know, she's going to be back on with us to talk more about the book. And I said, you've got to introduce this book briefly towards the end of this session. So I'm going to bring on Susan. Hello, Susan. Thanks for being here and waiting. And to say, absolutely delighted. So please give us a wee introduction to this new book that you got out. Absolutely fabulous.
Oh, and thanks for the platform, John. I've really enjoyed the session this afternoon, and it made me realise where I was coming from with this book. I've called it My Home Place Inheritance, and I inherited a lot of cookery traditions. And what kicked me off in the book was I was recovering from cancer about 7 years ago, and somebody told me to make broth, shin bone broth, and that's what kicked the book off. And after listening, you know, this afternoon, I've realised, and some of the things you said this afternoon, the kitchen is the workshop. The kitchen is absolutely the workshop altogether. This is how I got myself to recover from cancer, but there's also the family story behind it and how my grandmother, my two grandmothers and my parents and generations before them had to look after their health and their well-being and also their fun from the kitchen table. So that's really what the book's about. And I wanted to share a lot of these traditions and a lot of the recipes. And just listening to everybody this afternoon, I realized there's so much more stuff there. My grandmother, who's mentioned in the book, my Nana Wiley, she would have went straight for a jar of blackcurrant jam whenever somebody had a cold. And apparently black currants have more of those, I can't remember what they're called, the agents in them that kill viruses and colds and to kill free radicals. Black currants have more than blueberries.
Now, sorry for a moment. Yeah, I've just realized I was introducing your book and I had my microphone off, so I was talking to myself. And as I say, with your My Home Place Inheritance, I haven't got the physical book yet, but I saw an excerpt and I had to rush. I had to get the ebook. And the thing that struck me was what you actually put together being a diary. It was like as if you got a diary, a journal from your childhood, and you move through, and as you say about the kitchen, the story moves into the kitchen, bang, once you're in the kitchen and talking about food, there's the recipe in the book and how to go about it, how you can do it now. And I loved how this went on. And I think a lot of people reading it would be like myself. It was like taking me back to my childhood and all the stories. And I thought, yeah, I could have written that, but you've done it so beautifully. And that was my introduction. I had the microphone off. So it's lovely. And I've had people ask, where on earth do you get this book?
Oh, well, you can get it from the publishers, Blackstaff Press in Newtownards in Northern Ireland. It's been put on Amazon, but there's a few problems with that. I would just go straight to Blackstaff Press, blackstaffpress.com, and you'll get the copy there. Just put in my name, Susan Farrell, and the book will come up immediately.
In the comments after the show, I will actually put the link up. Normally, I would have had so excuse me that I didn't have it up on the banner, but I will put it up in the comments so people do. But Blackstaff Press and your own name, Susan Farrell, as I did, it came up very easily on the search on the Google, and it's well worth getting. It's an absolute delight. And it looked like as if it was a bit of a community project, the way that it came together. Is that right?
It came together in that, yes, there is a community aspect, because I wanted to go back and test all the recipes and make sure I had got them right. But it's very important if there's recipes in a book that people are able to reproduce them and that they taste good and they're delicious. So all of my friends, and I'm a cold water swimmer. I'll be going for a swim after this. I've just been bringing, yesterday we had dal on the beach. Other days we've had soda bread on the beach. We've had apple tart on the beach. And to let my friends taste these things and let me know if the recipe works. So I got loads of support from the community like that. The most important thing about food is sharing it. You know, it's breaking bread together. To me, this is what the kitchen table is about. And yes, I've shared it with the community and met my cold water swimming friends.
Well, thanks. As I said, it's a brief introduction because I was so keen for people to get your book. We're going to have Susan back hopefully in December to talk a lot more about the content of the book, because there's so much in it with this tradition, and it's going to be very much what people will be relating to in December. So thanks for this brief, just a reminder there, my home place inheritance. If you see the cover, that's it. Thanks very much for being with us briefly, Susan. It's such a delight, and I'm so looking forward to you coming back. I hope you'll be back with us in December and
Yes,
chat.
absolutely.
Really, we'll get right into the book then. Thanks very much for your patience and waiting for us. Thank you. So that was Susan. Again, I'll put up the link, and this is the, there we go. There's the cover again. Now, as I actually say each week on this, during these Sunday sessions, there's a lot that I actually leave out, partially to make room for guests, if I can, we can get them, and for your comments, that I am creating a She, Water and Tree folklore course to take these subjects a lot further. And I've been working a lot on it in the last couple of days. But for a while, there's not going to be a course fee on the course that I'm doing, the She, Water and Tree folklore. I invite you to subscribe to the course because Carracrory Labyrinth Gardens, the Sunday sessions I'm doing now, the costs are brought to you by your subscriptions and donations, because there are subscriptions I have to pay to make this possible. But the course media will be an ever-increasing topic. There'll be videos, podcasts, slides, ebooks, and eventually we'll get together with some Zoom-like course meetings to go into greater depth than I do on these Sunday sessions. But to subscribe, there's a link to the Patreon page, just £1, euro, or dollar a month or more. And there's links all over the Carracrory website. And I will message the subscribers very shortly explaining how to access and use the course. I'm going to put the first few bits up in the next week or two, so we'll be getting started. So thank you for being subscribers. And anyway, I'll just keep the show going for you. Let's see, a quick look at your comments before I kind of tell you what's coming up. Donna, I'm going to order the book. Yeah, sounds lovely. It really is. It really is worth it. It's just a joy. There we go. Oh, Suzanne, I'm going to order the book. Beautiful stories. Claire's beautiful stories saying Claire. Blackstaff Press. Susan Farrell, you've got it there, Robin. That's it. You're on the way to it. Fantastic. Right, yeah, you'll love it. And anyway, what's coming up? Sunday sessions next week. Ogham's always very popular. And so the 29th, next Sunday, is the divination story. We're covering the Ogham using the Ogham with the divinations. I don't need those in now. And then on the 6th of December, we've got the December traditions. And that's when Susan will be back, hopefully, and be going very much into more in the depth of the book and how you apply that to the traditions. And then the 13th of December that Donna was saying about there is, I haven't got the picture because I ran out of pictures I was allowed to put up, but we've got Austin, Ellen, and Reindeer Folklore. That's coming up on the 13th of December. And then on the 20th of December, we got the Yule Log Tales. So I think that's not far. I think we've pretty much done the lot. So thank you very much. Donna Johnson, Trista Haggerty, Susan Farrell were our guests. Thank you for being the guests, and we'll have them back in December, all three of them in different poses. And I'd like you to ask those of you who are watching this as an archive after this is being live, as a lot of people do later today, this evening. Please keep commenting. I always look at the comments and answer them as best that I can. So enjoy a safe week and have a week full of, it's starting to get chilly out here. So although the sun's beautiful, the temperature is going down. So I think this will be the last time I'm out here. But enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspiration, celebration, and all those enchantments. So until next Sunday, play well. Bye-bye.